Hey guys, welcome to Uncle Ray's Corner, Season 1, Episode 1. Uncle Ray's Corner is a little corner of the internet where we can talk about movies, entertainment news, what you're buying, what are you watching, what are you streaming, what video games are you playing. It's all inclusive. It's going to be great. So that's the gist of what Uncle Ray's Corner is. Season 1, Episode 1, I have my good friend, movie reviews himself, Jean-Paul Mantilla. He's going to co-host for a while, right?
Sounds good.
All right. And today was his pick. We're going to discuss 2024's Your Monster. Brief overview of Your Monster. A soft-spoken actress finds her voice again when she meets a terrifying but weirdly charming monster that lives in her closet. It's directed by Caroline Lindy, who has directed other films such as Aspirational Slut, Kindred Spirit, and Painkillers. Looks like the box office was $804,531 on a budget of $300,000. It released October 25th of 2024 in the United States and stars Melissa Berrera, Tommy Dewey, Megan Fahey, Edmund Donovan, Kayla Foster, Kimiko Glenn, Casey Bella Suarez, Scott Michael Foster, and Matthew Lamb. It was produced by Vertical Entertainment, such films as Elevation, The Order, The Damned, as well as Russell Crowe-led The Exorcism. The monster is played by Tommy Dewey, who you might recognize from other films such as Saturday Night, She's in Portland, and 2015 through 2018's TV series Casual. Jean-Paul, I'm going to go ahead and throw it off to you. I'll let you, since it's your pick, tell me about it. What'd you think?
All right, so I really enjoyed this movie. I was, what was it? I want to say May of last year, the trailer came out, and I saw, man, this looks really interesting. It looks like a romantic comedy horror movie. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't just paint by numbers romantic comedy or horror. It was just something completely different and surprising. And it also has Melissa Berrera, who, I just think everything she's done up to this point has been great. I have not had a single problem with any movie she's done, even In the Heights, which is a musical, which I know you're not a fan of.
No.
But in this movie, I think all of her talents shine. From her singing ability, her acting, her horror, because she's kind of becoming a new Scream queen herself by being in the last two Scream movies. And I just love this premise, because I really thought I was going to get one thing and I got completely another. Dewey as this monster is really, really cool, because the real question is your monster the deep-rooted monster inside of all of us that gets frustrated and pissed at the world when it doesn't go our way? Or is the monster an actual monster? And that's just really what I enjoyed about it. It was funny at parts. It was gruesome at parts that I did not expect. I thought, okay, yeah, it's rated R. Yeah, it's a horror comedy. But it was more a thinker than anything else. I've now rewatched this movie about 7 times, and each time I watch it, I catch something new and different. This last time, I caught more of the actual psyche of Melissa Berrera's character. How, she deals with so much trauma and drama in her life. Beginning, she gets a cancer diagnosis, and she has a slub of a boyfriend who just basically treats her like crap. And she then, like, her inner monster comes out. So before I just spoil anything, which I don't want to, but part of me, I don't know. It's just it's such a different take on battling your demons and dealing with depression and dealing with all the kinds of things that we deal with in our lives, that I just thought, wow, this is really... It just made you think a lot more than what I expected. So those are some of my takeaways.
Okay.
I would recommend people to watch this. I know currently it's streaming on Max. And if you didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters, it is definitely worth your time.
I agree. I'm going to just give you a brief rundown. Some of the things I enjoyed while I was watching it, I thought the soundtrack was really good. I always notice that in films, the soundtrack. This had some, it was very musically based because the main character that Melissa Berrera is playing, what's her name? Let me look here just to, her name is Laura Franco. So Laura is, her and her shitty boyfriend that, she's getting a cancer diagnosis at the beginning, but they work together in flashbacks. We piece it together on this musical that they're going to put on. And so the music actually was really good, I thought, through this whole thing. Like I said, I'm not a huge musical fan, right? But I thought that the songs, especially the ones they were working on for this musical, were really well done. Plus the soundtrack itself, there's some songs that the Beast plays for her, that are really good as well. So I thought the music in this really was like a second or tertiary character. I don't know if you felt that way, but the music was really a character in itself. The acting is superb. I can't say enough good things about Melissa Berrera and Tommy Dewey. When they're together in this movie, it fucking sings, dude. It's on point. The dialogue is really sharp and witty, and which rolls me into this overall story. What an interesting take on, you're right, it's like, this could have easily been a modern day Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? But it's not, it's deeper. It is more about what would somebody who's pushed to the edge, their monster inside of them, right? Would they let it out, or are they able to say, I don't need that anymore, and move? It's basically a metaphor, in my opinion, for trauma, right? You're going through the different anger, grief, acceptance, right? And then are you able to release the beast at the end, so to speak, right? Or do you give in and let the beast take over? The ending of this movie really surprised me. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not giving you spoilers. But the ending of this movie shocked me. And that's hard to do. I'm a pretty jaded guy. I think John Paul would agree. I was left sitting there on my couch at the end just pondering what I watched. I'd say the things I didn't like about it were there were little moments in this where I thought they could have maybe built the characters up a little bit more, especially the side characters who later become important, like the best friend. Like, why was she so shitty? You know what I mean? Like, I felt like there could have been a little bit more, which I think is a testament to how good this movie is. I wanted more, and I felt it was a little bit long. That being said, like, I wanted more substance, but I felt like they drugged some of this out without adding that, if that makes sense. Some of the dance recital stuff went on for a little bit too long, in my opinion. I didn't need to see that, especially since the ending isn't really what you're expecting, So, all in all, though, I can't recommend this highly enough. I'm going to go ahead and give my score, John Paul, and I'll throw it back over to you. I'm giving this one a solid B+. It's not a perfect film, but it is really good and worth your time, and it's streaming on Max. John Paul?
Yeah, I would agree with you. My only problem with this movie is it could have been a little bit tighter and maybe trimmed about 10 to 15 minutes.
I agree.
And you do get a lot of substance. I would disagree with you in the regards of you talking about the side characters. I think you get enough of really who the best friend character really is if you kind of been around any kind of production of stage, musical play, whatever.
Okay.
There's a lot of that type of person in that world where they're a bit conniving or a bit underhanding while also stabbing you in the front and the back. so you kind of get that enough of that. But I would trim about, like I said, 10-15 minutes, which would also give me a solid B+ on this movie as well. Like I said, I've seen it 7 times. I'll watch it again. Because just as the nuances of the character, and like we talked about, it's trauma, but just the way it's dealt with is such a really neat way. I mean, again, it's not groundbreaking. It's not the most, like, whatever that we've seen trauma been dealt with, because we've seen it in other things. But in this, it just catches you off guard, because the trailer itself sells you a romantic comedy, or sells you like there's some horror element, or like we talked about, Beauty and the Beast, a kind of warped retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I know when I reviewed it, that's kind of where I was kind of leaning to, but then the more I watched it, the more of the different layers that I caught were just so interesting. You know, there's a great flashback scene when Marissa Berrera's character is younger, which I thought, again, I don't want to spoil it, but that scene was really, really interesting at a second rewatch, because you then start realizing a little bit more. Or like anybody, when we deal with it kind of trauma, we put it inwards and we just keep it deep down inside, where eventually it will boil up. And that's really like the aftermath of everything boiling up is so neat the way they handled it in this movie, that it was just like, man, I really enjoyed it. And the acting, I mean, even the asshole ex-boyfriend, I forget the actor's name right now. Edmund Donovan.
His name is Edmund Donovan, I believe.
Edmund Donovan. Like, he's an asshole, and you know he's an asshole, but he does such a great job. But also, he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
which is like, okay, somebody can play a narcissist here and there, blah blah blah. But just the way he does it is such a really slimy and perfect way that I'm just like, okay, I'm totally down for this ride. I just, like I said, it's a B+. It's definitely a fun rewatch after you know the basis of it, and then you start picking up little other things that makes you rewatch it. So streaming on Max, it's worth your time.
Nice.
For
and
sure.
Just a little thing here. Our grading scale is A through F, so it could be A-, A+ through F-, F+. So it was a neat little way to do it. Everybody seems to be doing number scales, so we wanted to change it up. So that ends the movie reviews section. We're going to pick one movie each episode to discuss. It gives us a little bit more time to dissect it. This movie was so good, I didn't have a lot of anger, so nothing to really dissect other than I thought it was really well done, and as we discussed. So our next segment is called Movie Buzz, which is entertainment news headlines that grabbed me over the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna read a few things, and then John Paul and I are going to talk about them. First up is the award season is upon us. The Oscars are here, Jean Paul.
I can't wait.
Oh, dude. I disagree with so many of their fucking picks this season. But the things that popped out to me, and we can discuss it here, I'd say the top 3 snubs, in my opinion. Number 1 on my list is Denis Villeneuve, snubbed for Best Director. Pisses me off. Number two would be that Challengers is completely blanked. It didn't get nominated at all, which I was shocked because it was better than I expected it to be. And this one you might disagree with, Jean Paul, but I thought the third top snub was Denzel Washington for Best Supporting Actor. I don't think that there was a more nuanced performance this season than Denzel Washington in Gladiator 2. Discuss. Of those three things, what do you think?
I mean, of those three things, definitely Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, Dune 2 was
Again,
amazing.
I enjoyed Dune 2. I am one of the weirdos who enjoyed the first one better than the second one. But if you're going to nominate a movie for Best Picture, it makes no sense in my eyes to not nominate the director. The director is the person facilitating what you're seeing, what is happening, gives motivation to the actors, and for saying, hey, it's a Best Picture nomination, but it makes no sense to nominate the director.
Yeah, he's Denis Villeneuve. He's the guy that created. This is his entire vision. This version of this movie wouldn't exist without him. He built it from the ground up, and then he directed it. Like you said, he's the one that put it in the ball in motion. He's telling the actors what to do, where to go, why they're there. I mean, without that, and then to say it's like a slap in the face. Like, hey, your movie's good enough to be called possible Best Picture, contender, but it's not. You're not good enough as a director. I mean, get the fuck out of here, right?
Yeah. For me, I guess a snub would definitely be Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, which one would you pick? That's great. That's a great point. I saw that one. What a great film. She was tremendous in it. How does she not get nominated?
Yeah. Again, I have no idea how she doesn't get nominated. Does she win? I don't know. But what did surprise me was the fact that they let horror actually shine this year.
Right. I mean, that was actually
The Substance is nominated for Best Picture.
And that was
it's
actually
not going to win.
Yeah, that's my next thing here. Surprise! The top surprise is The Substance being nominated, and this is a Time magazine blurb. But let me read it real quick for you. After winning the Golden Globe for Best Actress in Musical or Comedy, which is ridiculous, by the way, there should be a horror.
That's Golden Globes.
I know.
That's what the Golden Globes does.
But there should be a horror category across the board. But let's say Demi Moore swiftly emerged as Best Actress Oscar frontrunner for her arguably best career turn as Elizabeth Sparkle in director Coralie Fargut's body horror The Substance. Moore received her expected nod on Thursday morning, but it was a 1-2 punch because The Substance also slid in as Best Director of Best Picture categories, which hasn't happened since 1991's The Silence of the Lambs. Crazy, right?
Yeah, again, I love this movie. It's a effed up movie to watch.
Fantastic.
But it's really good. And it's another one that, I would recommend. I know most people would be like, I don't know about it, but I'm like...
It's very
another
Cronenberg.
Movie with layers. Well, it's not even just Cronenberg. It's another movie with layers that you can really look into all the different nuances. I mean, even the title, The Substance.
Right.
Because it can mean one thing, but it really can mean something else. And that's really what I gravitated to it. I mean, even how it was shot. I mean, there's the in my opinion, the most grossest scene in that movie is the close-up shot of Randy Quaid eating.
Oh, eating
the
shrimp?
And it's so visceral and gross, and the sound design is just like, you're just like, oh my gosh. That is probably a little more off-putting than some of the other things that happen in this movie.
Yeah, it's like all slobbered around his mouth too, which
Yeah.
I had to think, and I imagine you did too when I watched this movie, that was somebody saying, I know a guy that does this shit. You know what I mean? Like, this was somebody
100%.
making fun of somebody in the industry, which I think is fantastic. So, but yeah, so that was surprising. I'm really glad I'm pulling for The Substance. Also, two other surprises. The Apprentice. I know when award season was starting to get around close, people were like, "Oh, that movie's not going to get nominated for anything," but it has some noms. Some noms.
Yeah. So
And-
Sebastian Stan as the Cheeto does a great job.
Yeah,
and,
which was surprising, and in this political climate, it's very surprising that they nominated. But he was worth it, as well as what's the other gentleman's name that played that was in this not The Substance, was in The Apprentice.
Strong is his last name.
Jeremy
I can't
Strong,
think of
yeah.
his first-
Jeremy
Thank you.
Strong playing the lawyer deserved a nom as well. So glad to see it.
So,
Glad to see it. Also, surprise snub. I haven't seen this movie, but the buzz was all over the place for this one. Sing Sing. Have you heard of this?
I have actually, and it's on my list. I plan on watching it in the next week or so.
Right. I want to see
I've
it too.
just heard nothing but good things about it.
Right. So that was surprising that it didn't get any nods either, man. So
Yeah. I've got a friend of mine who saw it, and he's a director and an actor, and he said it's probably one of the best things he's seen all year. So, I'm excited to see it soon.
yeah, so I'm going to check that out too. Surprising though, as all the buzz around it, it didn't get the steam it needed. And then what I'd like to say to end this with, and see if you agree, I'd say some notable 4K releases from January and February so far: Smile 2, Terrifier 3, The Substance, Heretic, Seven, The Keep, and Wicked all had 4K releases in the last 2 months. I think you guys, I'm a big proponent of physical media, and I think you guys should go out and buy these films. What do you think, Joko?
I mean, I totally agree with you. I picked up the 7 4K. It is great. The sound design, everything. It is one of my favorite David Fincher movies. It might be my favorite David Fincher movie. I'll be honest with you.
He's got a good
it's just so
filmography,
good.
but it's definitely in my top 1 or 2 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the soundtrack alone is great with Trent Reznor and Bowie doing some really cool tracks on it. Even the sequence of the end credits is really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's one of those movies that, because it's now been such a long time since it's come out, I think a lot of people have forgotten about it. And I would just say go watch it now, because it is as impactful as the first time you've seen it, and especially if you haven't seen it in a long time, because that is just like, holy cow, that's an ending, and it's a great ending.
I love that ending.
So
I remember the summer that came out, and I got to rent it on VHS around fall or winter that year. And I'm telling you, man, that ending, my friends and I talked about it for the entire school year that following year.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll start a counter, because I know it's going to happen, because it's going to come out of my mouth more than once. When I worked at a video store.
When I worked at a video store. If you guys didn't know, our buddy, follow him on TikTok, Movie Reviews over here, worked at a video store. So
I worked at a video store. I was an assistant manager for a long time at a video store, then a manager, and all that fun stuff. I went from lone clerk rewinding tapes to checking DVDs, so I went through the gambit of different media. It was such a cool movie to when it came out, and people were like, "Oh, I don't know about this one." And I go, "Look, I'm not a fan of Brad Pitt, but this movie made me a fan of Brad Pitt. He could actually act. Morgan Freeman as his co-star or lead, in my opinion.
I'd say co-lead.
Phenomenal. Co-lead.
I gotta
they're
think
both great.
It's one of the first movies I remember seeing where I was like, both of those people are equally important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And then, the villain, scumbag, Kevin Spacey, is also in it, but, okay.
We don't mention his name, but yes, he is.
We don't mention, yes.
No.
He is really good in it. There's a couple other surprises. Gwyneth Paltrow. Again, I'm used to her just being kind of pretty face in romantic comedies and whatnot. And she does such a great job. And the color, like, is another character that people don't realize. Because Fincher does that in his movies. He puts different colors. And this one, that kind of like blue, gray, you feel it.
Right.
You feel the rain. You feel all of the different things. And then the contrast of the end with the way the sun is setting is so cool.
Yeah, because it's dark through the whole movie and then bright as hell at the end, you know? So,
yeah. And again, the 4K is probably so far, you know, I know we're just 1 month in, it's one of the better 4Ks that have come out, and it looks great. So,
nice.
Highly pick it up. Warner Brothers did a great job. They touched up the film. The Atmos is really, really good.
Nice.
There's a couple of helicopter parts that like fly over your head, and you're like, "Oh wow, that's pretty awesome."
That's awesome.
So it's totally worth your time.
I'm gonna check that out as well. I'll probably end up buying that one, honestly. But right now, I'll do a little final segment here called "What's on My Shelves." What's new on my shelf. I'm going to start off with something I'm so proud of. It's the VHS release of Terrifier 3. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at that. It's so glorious. 2 VHS tapes. It sits. I have Terrifier 2 on VHS. It sits right on my shelf next to it. It is glorious. And then the other honorable mention, I picked this up last month. And I talked about it on the last Roundup Horror Show, but this version of Hush, man, it's so cool. This 4K Blu Ray of Hush. It has the Hush cut, which is a silent film basically. But this looks, if you're a slasher fan, you're a fan of Mike Flanagan, you have to pick this up. The slipcover's beautiful. The artwork's amazing. This is such a nice looking movie and such a great flick. So I highly recommend grabbing that one. That's it for this episode, season 1, episode 1. Next month, I'm hoping to pull together Jean Paul again and then our buddy John Walmsley for a discussion about one of my favorite flicks that Jean Paul actually, he worked at a video store. So
I work at a video store.
He actually told me about this flick. It's called The Killing of a Chinese Bookie by director John Cassavetes. It came out February of 1976. It's about a sleazy owner of this Hollywood cabaret studio who gets in over his head with some bookies and has to kill a guy to get out of it. And I can't wait to discuss it. I'm looking forward to that one. As always, I've been Ray McGuff. This is Uncle Ray's Corner, and with me is
Jean Paul Mantilla. Movie reviews. Check us out on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever,
on YouTube,
and on YouTube. That's right, on the tubes.
On the tubes. And
on the tubes.
And as always, thank you for watching, and stay tuned.